41. Chimera. Jackie's POV. On the plane, I was served an Indian meal which instantly reminded me of her. Smiling, I scrolled through the pictures I'd secretly taken of her on my phone. I laughed, imagining how she would react if she ever found out. She would probably freak out. I had taken those photos at different moments, when she was asleep on my lap in my apartment, when she lay unconscious on my bed after falling down the stairs, when she sat in her new cabin staring at a photo of her parents, when she was admiring the Taj Mahal, and when she was fiercely bargaining with the scarf seller. I had captured every little moment. Shaking my head, I chuckled again. Her images played in my mind like a movie, lulling me into the most peaceful sleep I'd had in a while. The announcement woke me. Blinking at the window, I took in the view of San Francisco from above. It was my city, my home, yet it felt strangely unfamiliar. Stepping out of the airport, I spotted James leaning against my favorite car, while John, my ever-loyal driver, stood beside him. The moment James saw me, he grinned like he was starring in a toothpaste commercial. Unfolding his arms, he strolled toward me, arms wide open for a hug. "Hey!" But I had other plans. The second I reached him, I landed a punch straight to his jaw, putting every ounce of my leftover energy into it. His head snapped to the right, and he clutched his face in shock. "What the fuck?" he finally cursed, glaring at me with wide eyes. Jaw clenched, I barely held back my urge to strangle him. Instead of answering, I shoved the handle of my trolley bag into his hand and walked straight past him toward my car. "Good afternoon, sir." John greeted me with a respectful bow. I managed a nod and a small smile before sliding into the back seat. A moment later, James followed, rubbing his jaw, his expression utterly baffled. After a few minutes of silence, he finally turned to me. "Why the hell did you punch me?" "Because you deserved it," I replied coolly, still watching the road. "What the hell did I even do?" I shot him a sharp glare. "You were an asshole while I was in India. You should be grateful I didn't kill you." "Oh," he blinked rapidly, processing my words. "Don't you ever talk about that girl like that again?" I warned. His confusion slowly morphed into a knowing smirk. "Wow. Now that's news. Jackie Dawson, the gentleman?" I leaned closer, my voice dangerously low. "Shut your garbage mouth, or I swear I'll hit you 3 times harder, maybe hard enough to paralyze that smug face of yours so you can never flash those teeth again." "Whoa, chill, dude." He raised his hands in surrender. "What's with the aggression?" "Talk some sense or shut up," I ordered. All right, he sighed, rubbing his jaw one last time. "I brought these legal documents. The lawyer said you need to go through them. Read them carefully. We have a court hearing tomorrow at 11. You'll need to sign the papers in front of the jury, so be ready by 10. He handed me a file. "Got it," I said, flipping through the pages. "And I'll go over last month's sales report with you tomorrow before work," he added. Then after a pause, he asked, "When are you heading back? Should I book a ticket?" "No, not yet," I said, still scanning the documents. "I'll let you know." John continued the drive to my mansion as James sat beside me, still nursing his bruised ego and his jaw.
Lavanya's POV. I stepped out of my apartment and started kicking my bike when the self-starter refused to work. "Oof, Didi." I heard a teenage voice and looked up to see Jamal walking towards me. "Jamal, Didi ya chubby." He handed me a key. I frowned, looking at it carefully, but I didn't recognize it. "This isn't mine, Jamal." I shook my head and extended my hand to return it. "Dawson's Sir House key," he said, and my expression shifted to one of surprise. Seeing my confusion, he continued, "He told me to give you." "What? But why?" I asked, but he simply shrugged, rolling his lower lip downward. "Bye, Didi." He waved and walked away, leaving me standing there in shock, completely confused about the reason behind it. I should call him and ask. I took out my phone but hesitated. He's probably on the plane right now. Sighing, I shook my head lightly and put the phone back in my purse. When I reached my office, I glanced briefly at the door leading to the CEO's office before stepping into my cabin. A few minutes later, Balram sir called my landline. "Behina, bring me the baby oil product file from Mr. Dawson's office." Where is it, sir? I think it's on his table or maybe inside the desk drawer. Just check and bring it to me. It's a yellow folder. Okay, sir. Hanging up, I left my cabin and entered Mr. Dawson's office suite. The moment I stepped in, I was engulfed by his lingering fragrance. Even though I knew he was gone, I could still feel his presence everywhere in the room. There were multiple stacks of files on his desk. As I approached, my eyes fell on his chair. Almost unconsciously, I ran my fingers lightly over it before shaking off the feeling and focusing on my task. There were several yellow folders, but I couldn't find the one I needed on his desk. So I opened the left drawer and started searching. As I pulled out a yellow file to check its contents, a small piece of hard paper slipped out and landed on the floor. It was white. But when I picked it up, I realized it wasn't just any piece of paper. It was a photograph. I turned it over and gasped. It was the original photo of my parents, the one I had lost, or rather, the one he had taken as he had once mentioned. I sighed, smiling at the realization that he had kept it so carefully in his drawer. So sweet of him. Gently, I placed the photo back inside the file and returned it to the drawer before opening the right one. Finally, I found the file I had been asked to bring. New D. Dawson baby oil. Got it. I was stirring my cold coffee absent-mindedly, lost in my thoughts, when Ruhi's voice snapped me out of it. Hey, are you okay? Huh? Yeah, I replied, straightening up. You were gone all day. Vairat sir was asking about you. I sighed. I was just busy the whole day. I took a leave. He's gone, right? She asked, as if she already knew the answer. Who? I stammered, avoiding her gaze and focusing on my coffee. After a short pause, she clarified, You know who I'm talking about? Mr. Dawson, of course. I shifted my gaze to her and nodded before looking down again. I heard her sigh in frustration. He's not coming back, lovey. Now it's only Virat, sir, so be careful about what you choose for yourself, she advised. I looked everywhere but at her, making it clear that her advice wasn't needed. I already knew what I wanted. I asked him if he wanted to come for lunch, but he seemed off. I think he's struggling in his new department. You should go cheer him up, she suggested. My eyes met hers, and I bit my lower lip, remembering how I used to bring lunch for Mr. Dawson every day just to lift his mood. But now, I won't see that smile again. Are you even listening to me, Lavanya? Ruhi demanded. I nodded and, letting go of my hesitation, stood up, deciding to see Virat sir. I'll see you later. See ya, she replied, but my eyes had already drifted to the coffee counter, the place where I had first met Mr. Dawson. I'm sorry, miss. I didn't realize someone was standing behind me. I'm really, really sorry. His very first words to me echoed in my mind, and for a second, I saw my past self standing there glaring at him. Hey, what happened? Rui's voice pulled me back to reality. The past scene disappeared and his voice faded away. I turned to look at her only to find her watching me closely, her expression investigative. No, nothing. I'm fine. I'll just go. I quickly dismissed her concerns. Casting one last glance at the counter, I walked out of the canteen and headed toward the advertising department. Yes, come in, Virat sir said after I knocked on his office door. I stepped inside and he gave me a quick double take before shifting his attention back to his laptop. Nice decor, I complimented, but he didn't acknowledge it. You didn't come to the canteen today? I added with a small, hesitant smile, not wanting to disturb him while he worked. He gave me a strange look and asked bluntly, Do you even care? I blinked, caught off guard. Virat sir looked upset. I wanted to say that I did care, but before I could, he let out a huff and shook his head. Forget it, he muttered, refocusing on his laptop. Summoning my courage, I finally asked, "Sir, what's wrong?" He closed his eyes for a few seconds, then let out a loud sigh before opening them again. "You happened, Lavanya. As usual, you happened," he said, his voice heavy with frustration. I furrowed my brows in confusion. "I don't understand. Is something wrong?" "I don't know. You tell me," he snapped, shutting his laptop. "Because nothing seems to be going right between us." He stood up and walked toward me from across the table. "I think you already have all the answers," he continued. "Every time I try to talk to you, you avoid me. But now, suddenly, you've decided to come to me. Does that mean you finally have the answers to clear my doubts? Or did you just happen to be in the mood to talk today?" His words came out in one breath, sharp and unrelenting. I swallowed hard, unsure of what to say. "Sir, what are you talking about? I don't understand. Did I do something wrong?" I asked in a low, shaky voice. He looked at me as if I had asked the most absurd question. "What am I to you, Lavanya?" he asked suddenly, his eyes fixed on mine. I opened my mouth to answer, but no words came out. Seeing my hesitation, he looked away, clearly frustrated. "I don't understand why we're even together," he continued, his tone laced with disappointment. "Wow, why are you asking such things?" I stammered, feeling completely lost. "Because you have turned our relationship into a question, Lavanya." He frowned at me, though his voice remained gentle. "Look at us. We're in a relationship, yet we barely talk, barely text. I know you don't like these things, but at least if I call, answer, or if you're busy, just send a message. Anything." He exhaled sharply. "You didn't come yesterday. You didn't even care to inform me. And when I call or text, you don't reply. You don't even call back. What kind of relationship is this? I'm struggling to understand it." "I'm sorry," I mumbled. "You know, I don't check my phone often. I think it was on silent mode and I forgot to change it back." "Then throw it away," he snapped, making me flinch. "There's no point in having a phone if you don't use it." I stared at him, stunned by his sudden outburst. I'm sorry," I whispered, lowering my gaze. He sighed deeply and softened his tone. "I love you, Lavanya. I care about you. A lot. I want to hear your voice when you're not around. I want to know if you're okay. I want to understand you, to know more about you. But you don't let me. And it hurts. You don't realize how much you push me away. Don't take me for granted." His voice wavered slightly. "If you don't want this relationship, just tell me. We'll end it right here, right now. But if you do want it, then you have to make an effort too. You have to give us some of your time." He paused, then spoke again, his voice tinged with sadness. "I don't understand what you want, Lavanya. I want to be close to you, to spend time with you, to go out with you. But you never give me a chance. Where do you see this relationship going? What future do you see for us?" I knew I had to be honest. I had to tell him about my confusion, my feelings, my dilemma. "I never meant to hurt you. I was just..." "I know," he interrupted gently. "I know you would never hurt anyone, not even in your dreams. And that's why I love you. But unintentionally, you are hurting this relationship." He hesitated before saying, "I wanted to tell my parents about you." My head snapped up, eyes widening in shock. "But what do I tell them?" he continued. "That I want to marry a girl who doesn't even realize how much I love her?" His voice was raw with emotion, his eyes glossy with unshed tears. "Sir," I breathed, overwhelmed. "Lavanya," he inhaled deeply. I'm asking you this for the last time. Please, just be honest with me. His voice was barely above a whisper, but there was desperation in his eyes. Do you love me? My mouth opened, but no words came out for a few moments. Do I? Yes, you do. Tell him that you love him. But don't I have feelings for Stop It? He's gone. It was just infatuation. Do you really want to lose such a beautiful relationship over a meaningless feeling? Tell me, Lavanya, Virat urged, his voice heavy with expectation. I can't lie to him. He's my friend too. I need to be honest with him. Come on, Lavanya. This is how it works. Be with the one who loves you unconditionally, not the one you have fleeting feelings for. He's never coming back. And for a man you've known for just a month, will you really break the heart of someone who has loved you for years? Look into Virat's eyes and just say yes. He's the one who will love you forever. Please say something, Virat pleaded, his voice thick with emotion. I know I want to. But what? Don't forget, you can never be with him. He's out of your reach. He's American, you're Indian. He's Christian, you're Hindu. He's a billionaire and you're just a middle-class girl. Do you really think this fantasy will ever work? Will your parents and relatives ever accept him? Lavanya. Virat's eyes glistened with unshed tears. Yes, I said in a defeated tone. I want this to work. I nodded slowly, my own eyes misting. I want us to be together. I want us to be happy. I made my decision at last. Us who? You and Virat? Or you and Dawson? Virat exhaled sharply as if a weight had been lifted from his chest. You, he whispered, closing his eyes, are my life, Lavanya. You have no idea how much I love you. Never do that to me again. I love you with everything I have. His gaze was intense, filled with emotions I wasn't sure I could return. I managed a weak smile. Then, without warning, he pulled me into a tight embrace. I stood still, caught off guard, but didn't react or overreact. I just let him hold me, let him express his happiness. And yet, in that moment, my mind betrayed me. I remembered his arms, Mr. Dawson's embrace in the dark hideout at the Taj Mahal, the way he held me, so differently. Virat's voice brought me back. He mumbled into my ear, still holding me close. So, are we still going on that date this Saturday? Before I could even process his words, another voice echoed in my mind. Mr. Dawson's voice. I want you to come with me. Will you go out with me, Miss Lavanya? I clenched my eyes shut, forcing back the tears welling up inside. Oh, of course, I whispered, pushing away the unwanted memories. Virat finally let go, his face lighting up with a bright grin. I'll text you, he said, gently wiping my tears away with his handkerchief. I nodded, forcing a convincing smile. I walked back to my personal cabin, exhaling slowly. But the moment I stepped inside, my heart stopped. There he was. Mr. Dawson. His reflection stared back at me from the mirror wall. He was leaning casually against the wall behind my chair, one knee bent, his foot resting against the surface. Arms crossed, his usual smirk playing on his lips. His eyes locked onto mine as if he knew what had just happened. I stood frozen, my grip on the doorknob loosening. Then, as the door swung shut behind me with a loud click, I flinched, and when I turned back to the mirror, he was gone. I glanced around. No one. It wasn't real, just an illusion. My chest tightened as a chilling realization washed over me. What is happening to me? Why do I keep seeing him everywhere?
Jackie's POV. Mr. Garfield, do you agree to the clauses and conditions? The judge asked in a firm tone, his voice echoing through the courtroom. The verdict had already been declared, finding the fraudster guilty. James and I sat beside each other, just behind our lawyer, observing the proceedings. Yes, Garfield replied in a defeated tone, nodding slowly. The judge turned his attention to me. Mr. Dawson, do you wish to make a statement? If you prefer, you can file a defamation case against Mr. Garfield for damaging your company's brand and reputation and seek further compensation. From the corner of my eye, I saw James smirking, anticipating my response. I stood up. Thank you, Your Honor, but I choose to forgive Mr. Garfield. I only want my money returned. That will be sufficient. A collective gasp filled the courtroom. Even James and my lawyer looked at me in disbelief. Are you certain? The judge asked, his expression unreadable. Yes, Your Honor, I affirmed confidently. James leaned in, whispering, What the hell do you think you're doing? His voice carried both shock and irritation, but I didn't respond. Very well, the judge said. Mr. Garfield and Mr. Dawson, please step forward and sign the agreements in the presence of the jury. We moved towards our respective lawyers, signed the documents, and then I shot a final glare at Garfield before turning back to my seat. The judge cleared his throat and delivered the ruling. According to this agreement, Mr. Garfield is required to return the full advance amount of $50 million to Mr. Dawson's company, D. Dawson, within the next 3 months. Additionally, a fine of $50,000 will be charged by the court, payable within 5 months. Furthermore, as a penalty imposed by this jury, Mr. Garfield will be prohibited from taking advance payments from any company for the next 3 years. This court is now dismissed. James and my lawyer let out a sigh of relief, exchanging a firm handshake. The legal battle was over. After completing all the formalities, we left the courtroom, and John drove us back to the office. What the hell was that? James asked as I skimmed through the sales reports he had handed me earlier. What? I replied in my usual authoritative tone. In the courtroom, why did you let that bastard off so easily? You never forgive people who try to cheat you? I looked up and met his gaze. We got our money back. I don't have time to get caught up in unnecessary drama. We're launching a new product, and I want everyone focused on that, not on taking revenge. My tone sharpened at the last part, making it clear I didn't want any further discussion on the matter. James frowned, but he knew better than to argue. John, drive faster. I want to finish my work as soon as possible, I ordered, and John increased the speed. When we arrived at D. Dawson's main branch, Stella was standing at the reception, offering a bright, "Good afternoon, Mr. Dawson." I nodded politely, but as soon as she smirked, a memory flashed in my mind. Her kissing me in the elevator the last time I was here. Instantly, I averted my gaze, unwilling to give her the slightest encouragement. James followed me as I walked through the office. Employees greeted me enthusiastically, their excitement evident. I returned brief nods, but kept moving toward my office. Finally, I sank into my chair, exhaling as I prepared to dive into work. Take a seat, James, I offered, motioning to the chair across from me. Thank you, sir, he replied, his tone unusually formal. I picked up the phone and called my secretary. Bob, come to my office. On my way, sir, he replied promptly, and I hung up. A few moments later, after a brief knock, he entered. We spent almost an hour reviewing reports and discussing the new product development and launch strategy for the Indian branch. I think it's a solid idea, James said. We just need a strong campaign to back it up, you know? I nodded in agreement. But we can't rely on our usual marketing strategies over there. The Indian market is different. If a product doesn't connect with people emotionally, they won't buy it. Why not? Our marketing team has been doing an exceptional job for years, James countered. This time, I don't just want good. I want the best, I clarified. That's why I've hired a new advertising team in India. They have their own department now, and they'll take care of the campaign. I'll speak to them once I'm back. In the meantime, you can gather reviews once the sample product is ready. We'll distribute free samples, along with one of our existing bestsellers in the Indian market. Customer feedback and genuine reviews will drive the success of this launch. James and Bob both nodded in agreement. I'll manage the Indian advertising department myself, and James, you'll oversee the American one, I assigned. And Bob. Yes, sir? Bob straightened, attentive. Get in touch with our London branch's advertising team. Have them start working on a campaign and send us a copy once it's ready. We'll compare all the proposals and choose the best one. I want this done by next month, so tell them to move fast. Consider it done, sir, Bob reassured me. You can go now. I nodded at him. He acknowledged with a nod and left the room. James leaned back in his chair and crossed his arms. So, when are you heading back? I gave him a suspicious look. Why are you so eager to send me away? He shrugged. You asked me to book a ticket, didn't you? Not yet. His expression turned serious. Is everything all right in India? Yeah, before I go back, I need to make a stop first. Where? Book me a flight to San Diego, I instructed. What? Are you sure? Yes. All right. Interesting, he said with a smirk, then hesitated before asking, Can I ask you something? Spit it out. You're enjoying yourself over there, aren't you? I raised an eyebrow. What exactly am I enjoying? Being in India. After a moment of silence, I finally spoke. We've had the wrong idea about India all along. It's not what we thought. It's a vibrant place with some really wonderful people. By wonderful people, you mean beautiful women, right? He smirked. I rolled my eyes. He really deserved a punch in the face. Out of nowhere, he asked, How is she? I knew exactly who he was talking about, but I pretended otherwise. Who? I replied, flipping through the file in front of me. You know who. I shot him a warning glare. You should focus on your work, Mr. James. I am, he said with a knowing grin. But right now I'm asking as a friend. So, did you two do it? I should have been irritated, but the idea of expecting something like that from Lavanya was so absurd that I actually laughed. Did I say something funny? James asked, his lips twitching to one side in confusion. I shook my head before replying. I only managed to kiss her twice, once on each cheek, before leaving. Cheeks. He raised an eyebrow. No lip action. No moi. Moi. He exaggerated a pout, making ridiculous kissing sounds. Rolling my eyes, I leaned back in my chair. Just once. When she was asleep, I admitted, feeling a little embarrassed. Wait, what? Are you fucking kidding me? His brows shot up. You mean Jackie Dawson kissed a girl and she was still asleep? He let out a suppressed laugh, and I turned my gaze to the window, annoyed. You are so screwed, man, he declared. What do you mean? I shot him a sharp look. His smirk turned devilish. You're in love. My eyes widened. With an Indian girl. It's probably just temporary attraction, not love, I lied, looking everywhere but at him. I know I have feelings for her, but I can't admit it, not before telling her, not before knowing if she feels the same way. His smirk only deepened. Well, someone's turning crimson. I scowled, grabbing a file and throwing it at him. Get the hell out of here. All right. No need to get all cranky, lover boy. He laughed as he dodged the file and left. I clenched my jaw, fighting the urge to punch him again.
Lavanya's POV. After saying goodbye to Ruhi and Virat sir, I headed to the parking area to get my bike, only for it to refuse to start again. I sighed in frustration, but then an odd feeling crept over me. It felt like someone was watching me. I turned my head and froze. Mr. Dawson was leaning against his car, smirking at me. My eyes widened in shock. Are you coming, or do I have to carry you again? He teased, using the exact words he had said just a few days ago. I blinked in confusion and started blabbering, my words broken by pauses. Sir, you here, my bike. How? Madam? A different voice startled me. I turned my head to see the security guard standing beside me, giving me a strange look. Who are you talking to? He asked. Frowning, I glanced back toward where Mr. Dawson had been standing. He was gone. So was his car. I stared at the empty space, feeling utterly lost and confused. Madam, are you all right? The guard asked again. I opened my mouth to explain but hesitated. If I told him I had just seen someone who wasn't actually there, he'd think I was losing my mind. Yeah, I finally murmured, blinking as I looked down. Do you need help with your bike? He offered. I simply nodded. After he helped me kick-start it, I drove home. Before climbing the stairs to my apartment, I glanced toward Mr. Dawson's duplex. It was still dark. I sighed and went inside, my mind fixated on one thing. Why had he told Jamal to give me his apartment key?